So Nicola, you were telling me earlier that you never had Missouri wine, so I thought it'd be fun to kind of have you try a couple Missouri wines.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then kind of get your feel for the climate of Missouri versus what you have in Italy, and do you think ask you how challenging it might be. The first one we're having is the Merrimack Vineyards Silvio's Red. It's Silvio. It's Stars Stark, which is a hybrid created by an Italian immigrant, and Norton.
Stars Stark.
From what I found out when I went to Merrimack Vineyards down in St. James, Missouri, is that's where a lot of the Italian immigrants moved. You always hear about the Germans moving to Missouri and having a wine industry, but you don't hear about the Italians. And that area is where the Italians moved.
Because there are a lot of Italians.
There's a lot of Italians, a lot of Sicilians too in St. Louis.
Sicilians.
Yes.
Which is different.
They're just different. And this is a lot of fun. This was a big hit when we had it on Ciao St. Louis during one of the music programs. And I thought I'd have you try and ask you, what does it remind you of?
Well, first of all, it's interesting that, I've been coming to St. Louis for many, many years, at least a couple of times a year. And this is the first time I actually had Missouri wines. So, are they sold broadly in restaurants here in Missouri, or like mainly American restaurants are using them, or because I don't see them on Italian restaurants?
There's some restaurants that have them, but not all of them.
It's more retail?
It's more retail, and sadly, it's very little presence in retail. Missouri has over 130 wineries in the state.
Wow.
If you go to retail stores, you're lucky if you see 6, 7 wineries represented on the shelves. And then it's not even a true representation of what those wineries even carry. And then people have this perception of a lot of Missouri wines being all sweet, just like they think all Italian wine is Pinot Grigio or Moscato. It's like, that's not the case. You need to go out and look. And I've told people that the great Missouri wines are hidden treasures in your backyard. Just go visit some of the wineries.
Right. So most of those wineries, they receive visitors that go there and they try the wine and they buy the wine there.
Yes.
Very interesting.
And I tell people, I go, no matter where you go in the world, no matter what great wine region you go to, you're going to find just as many great wines as you are wines that you're not going to like. And Missouri's no different. So when people say, oh, there aren't any good Missouri wines, I go, you haven't tried enough.
Exactly.
Or, don't write off Italian, or don't write off California. Try more of them. And
so what's the name of this grape again?
Stars Stark.
Stars Stark.
It's a hybrid.
Never had it before.
I didn't have it either until I went to the winery.
Cool. Well, if you, looking at the color, first thing, if let's say you didn't tell me that this was a Missouri wine and said, okay, taste this. So if I look at the color, I would say it's either like a long aging Barolo. That was the first thing that came into my mind, but then of course I didn't smell it yet. But I would guess like a very old or long aged wine, looking just at the color. There's nice concentration. There's like brick colors and brown on the edge. I would say like an old wine. The nose is quite interesting. It's very balsamic, so it has a lot of that balsamic connotation that I can relate with. Again, old Nebbiolos, not specifically Barolos, but definitely an old Nebbiolo. And also a very particular wine that is not very easy to find in the United States. This one reminds me a lot of a wine from Calabria region, deep south of Italy, that is called Magliocco. Magliocco is a very it's you gotta go there to find it. It's a very very unique varietal that grows exclusively in Calabria, which is the tip of the toe.
Okay.
So the Puglia is the heel of the boot, and Calabria is the tip of the toe. And they have this Magliocco and Gaglioppo. They're two amazing varietals. And And when actually I taste them, I told them I would have guessed was a Barolo, when they call it the Barolo of the South. So this one might be
Really?
the Barolo of Missouri.
It's funny that you say Barolo, because when I brought it to the Ciao St. Louis guys, and when they had it blind, they thought Nebbiolo. And it has those Nebbiolo characteristics.
That was my first guess. On the palate, it's telling me that it's not a Nebbiolo. You have the acidity of the Nebbiolo. It doesn't have the tannins of the Nebbiolo. It doesn't have that powerful tannins that you can find on a Barolo or on a Barbaresco. But it leaves a very nice mouthfeel. It actually confirms the balsamic aspect of it. At the beginning I thought it was a bit of oxidation, but as a matter of fact, the wine still have some nice fruit. You get a lot of, how do you call it? Like the cherry, but like the maraschino cherry, like the one that you preserve in spirits.
Yes.
That's kind of the thing that
Maraschino cherries, I think. I'm probably butchering it. Also, I get a lot of bright red berry flavors.
Yeah, a lot of berries, definitely a lot of berries, and it's a wine that really grows on you. It's really, the more you smell into it, the more you want to research, and that's exactly what I'm asking when I drink a good bottle of wine. To me, wine is like a date, I always say. So it's, first is the look, and you see if you like the person, and then you start having a conversation, and the conversation is with your nose, and then only if you get lucky you can get to taste it, right? So,
Right.
And then you want that the wine becomes more and more interesting. I always say there is a difference between a Friday night date and a lifetime commitment. And I want my wines, especially the big guys, to be lifetime commitment. So I want the wine to really engage the conversation with me and prolong the conversation as much as possible.
A memorable wine, but you're not going to be married to it.
Exactly.
We're never married to our wines.
We cover that, right? No commitment.
No commitment to wine.
No commitment. Just prolonged conversations. Really interesting. So, what's the vintage of this?
This one is, let's see, this one I think is a non-vintage. It's a non-vintage. But here's the...
They barrel aged.
I believe it has a little bit of barrel age. It's a lot of fun, and it's a fun little family. They even have an office that they converted to daycare, so the kids can start working at the winery as soon as they're out of diapers.
That's very cool.
Joe, I hope I'm not getting you in trouble with this one. I just think it's very cute that you're able to take care of the kids at the winery, that you eliminated an office and turned it into a area to watch the kids. I mean, and that's what I love about family
Absolutely.
wineries.
Actually, we have a winery in my portfolio that is called Vado al Melo, and is in Bolgheri, which is what I call Super Tuscan land, where Sassicaia was born. And one of the things that I always mention about this winery is that it's called a concept winery. It's because it's that Bolgheri area is very new. So all the wineries are very new. So new wineries are thought with a much more, I can say, practical design. And that is a concept winery because it's a winery that blends into the environment and is good not just for the wine, but also for the people that lives there. And I always say it's a kid-friendly winery. So it's a winery designed to welcome school to come and see the life of the vine and the life of the wine. So it's built in circle. So you start at one point and walking around, you see all the biological life of the vine from January to the next January, and then when you finish the circle and you get the harvest, start the second circle that tells how wine actually is made. So that's all about the winemaking, and it's all for the kids. And I'm not saying college student. I'm saying first grader, second grader, like from the very, very early ages, they bring them and they let them taste. Of course, they're not going to taste wine,
right,
but they're going to taste grape juice. Great. And so they see and they can appreciate it and respect nature and wine as a nectar of God, as a gift, of God and the interaction between the earth and the humans. And so they build their appreciation, not just an alcoholic beverage, but something that is in the culture.
A life science course where they're learning about soil, geology, biology.
Absolutely.
A little bit of business.
And also archaeology, because that area was lived by the Etruscan 1,000 years, maybe not, a good 500 years before the Romans came along. So there are a lot of, how can I say, digging and leftovers from an archaeological perspective. So they see that we're making wine for 3,000 years over there, and they learn on this thing, and they show what the instrument they were using back then, and then they see the instrument using now. It's a beautiful place.
That is really neat.
And you said before, the sooner you catch them, the kids, the sooner they will respect the product and not abuse of it.
Right, they view it as a food item to be respected, not a binge alcohol abuse.
Exactly.
Now, here's one thing, people, and I talked about this in a previous interview about, they go, why can't you grow traditional vinifera in Missouri? Well, Missouri has the high humidity. We get rains in the middle of the summer. We don't have a consistently cold winter or a consistently mild winter. I mean, you can go from 60 degrees in January to 10 degrees in March with a foot of snow on the ground.
I was here with severe cold weather, I was here with was like snow and cold, so I was just like, wow, this is cold.
Do you have anywhere in Italy that you encountered those types of conditions?
Well, as a matter of fact, when I came over here, I was said, well, the weather in Missouri is pretty much like Italy, in the sense that you have the seasons. You have summer is hot, and then you have the fall, and then you have the winter, which is cold, and then you have spring, the warms are up, and then you have summer. So we do have the same type of season, and the season actually is synchronized with yours. Your summer is our summer,
right.
Your winter is our winter. And it gets cold and snowy here, and it gets cold and snowy in Italy. One of the things that might be different is that we don't have that extreme humidity that you mentioned, which makes it very challenging to grow grape. You're totally right. So, for example, I'm from Valpolicella, and which is Veneto region, and in Valpolicella, in Verona, my town, humidity can be high, but not at this level. So it's not a dry heat; it's actually a humid heat. So at night, you're like, oh my God, I need some AC, I need some air conditioning. But that's why we grow grape only on hillside. So on the hillside, you have this beautiful temperature drop. And we do have a very constant temperature drop between day and night. It's like 25 to 30 degrees different. And that's what really saves us. And that's what really let us make wine. And because it is humid, especially when you go towards the lake. The thing is that between the lake and the Adige River Valley, that takes you up to Trentino to Adige, because of the difference in temperature between the water and the cold Alps, there is the wind that comes every day. So wind is the cure of all the diseases when it comes to vineyard.
It blows out
and keeps it dry.
Okay.
And that's the beauty of it. That's why we don't have, in generally speaking, in Italy, hillside production is always rated and graded much higher than bottom floor. On the hillside, it's more difficult to grow because it's much more difficult to grow something in this condition rather than to grow something in this condition, right?
Right.
But the advantage of being on the hill are multiple. So you have hills here, a lot of hills.
We have a tremendous amount of hills, actually.
But it's humid also during a night.
Right. We get the big humidity. I mean, if you ever want to win a trivia question, you can ask somebody, what is the oldest mountain range in the world and where is it located? And people will say whatever, but very few people will say the St. Francis mountain range in southern Missouri, northern Arkansas. Those were around long before the Himalayas, the Alps, all that. It's the only mountain range that's never been underwater or under ice.
Of course. Well, it is the American continent, one of the oldest by far, and that's why your mountains are so level. The only reason why Himalaya is so tall and Alps are so picky is because they're new. Talking relatively speaking, extremely new. And that's why Italy has this big problem of flash floods and landslides, because it's so new, and earthquakes, because it's so new that it's still moving, it's still shaking, it's like a baby in the cradle. So Italy is still crumbling down to the sea. So our Apennine Mountains and the Alps are still shaking and fixing themselves.
Africa's still coming north. Every year the Mediterranean's getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And Africa is pushing, so we have a lot of earthquakes. So actually the Alps are still growing, they're still going up. But
now
I find it very interesting wine.
it is.
May I ask a very commercial question?
Sure.
What would be the price point of this wine?
This is, I believe, right around that $17, $14, $17 price point.
Nice. Now the menthol is coming through and some sage is coming. So there's some nice spices and some caramel also. Cool. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, and what's fun is, like I said, an Italian immigrant was the one that created the varietal.
Oh, they made it humidity resistant or something. They were trying to.
Well, it was a hybrid that he created, from what they were telling me. And then they were also telling me, down in that area, they survived Prohibition by making Sacramento wine. So I thought that was interesting that when we met with Tim Pukta, the federal government came in and cut their vines down, smashed up a lot of their equipment during Prohibition.
Huh.
And you had some wineries that survived by selling grapes to the local Italian community out there on the West Coast. Others made Sacramento wine. So it was interesting to see who survived and how they survived through Prohibition over the years.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, it took a good 30. Missouri was the second largest producer of wine up until Prohibition.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
we were a bigger wine producing state than California at that time.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Cool.
Now, this is Norton. From what I recall, is what Thomas Jefferson was growing.
Norton is the name of the producer.
Le Bourgeois is the name of the producer.
So Norton is the varietal?
Norton is the varietal.
Not familiar with those.
It is an American varietal, and it's really good. If you like Cabernet Franc, this is a varietal that you would probably enjoy. It has a little bit of a gamey aspect to it. It has some weight. It has the tannins. I love it with grilled venison. The story I tell people is I had a friend that I deer hunt with out in California that came over to the house. I made venison, I made pasta, a couple other things, invited a buddy of mine to join us, and he brought a bottle of Norton. And we had big California bad boys all on the table. And at the time, I didn't have any Missouri wines in my portfolio, and you just kind of focus. And it's a perfect example of why you should cheat on your wine.
Absolutely.
And we sit there, and I tried it. I'm like, oh my God, this is really good. This is really good with the venison. And I've really been a big believer, that it just held up against everything that I had on the table from California. And I had some big names on the table that night, and it just held its own, and it was about maybe 1/2 to 1/3 the price of anything on the table. And it's always funny when people say, oh, I brown bagged this really good Missouri Norton, and people were loving it, and then when they saw what it was, how they were crawfishing.
Oh yeah, absolutely, I agree, absolutely. But then again, I never had these wines, but I love wine, so I'm absolutely willing to give it a try. I mean, there is never no answer when somebody is offering me a glass of wine, because I want to experience new things. And first time that I have this very unique hybrid, and that my very first time that I have a Norton, so I'm genuinely excited about it because I'm exposed to new flavors, and that's what it's all about. And they always say, you're not married to it, so you don't like it, you dump it.
You dump it.
How easy is that?
All right, there's no lawyer fees.
No, fortunately not. Looking at the color already, much deeper color, and you have some purple on the edge. So this one actually looks a little bit younger than the other one, or with that sign of oxidation. So I don't know how much time did he spend in barrel.
This
But
is
it's
2015.
15, so it's 3 years old.
3 years old. It's Le Bourgeois Norton. It does see some oak. The exact oak regimen I cannot remember
Doesn't
off
matter.
the top of my head.
But the nose is phenomenal.
The nose is phenomenal.
The nose is really, now it's a really different ball game here.
You have some big weight to this. You get some
Ooh.
blackberry fruit.
We have a winner here.
Yeah,
This is an amazing wine.
if you like the big heavy wines,
This one has, the menthol that we were talking before, like a very, very elegant menthol. A lot of cassis and blueberries shining through. You have some sweetness. Now, when you use the word sweetness, you should never use it the way I do it, because sweetness cannot be detected by the nose. Okay, when I say sweetness, I mean very elegant, soft perfumes, and that's what I call, as my own personal slang, sweet flavor, sweet perfumes, because that only your tongue can give is sweet. So if you said, "Oh, such a sweet," no, you're saying something stupid, and that's what I'm actually saying. I'm saying something stupid, but I talking to myself. I'm saying, "Oh, that's the nice sweet perfumes coming." So very elegant.
seductive aromas.
Seductive aromas, absolutely.
Seductive aromas.
And you also have some roasted coffee beans, which I really like.
But I mean, this with some lamb, some venison. We were talking some, smoked ribs.
I love the acidity of this wine. I think it has an amazing acidity. We let this wine age quite well. Still have a long way. I would desire some extra tannins. Probably the humidity you were talking about, and the problem in the temperature drop doesn't really allow this, like a more phenolic component coming out of the grape. You get a lot of softness. The wine is very round, it's very smooth, it's very silky, but has that nice sharp acidity that cuts through the meat and cut through the fat, which is always extremely desirable. One thing you have to do me a favor, American people: acidity. Write it down as your key word for wine. Acidity is the treasure that is in the wine. People, when you think acid, acid is not good. No, acid is like the tank of oxygen for a diver. You don't want to go diving with an empty tank. You know what's going to happen, right?
You die.
Exactly.
You die.
Not fun.
I've been told that wine needs to hold up and to go with food. You need tannins, acidity, and fruit.
Absolutely.
And if it doesn't have those three things, it's not in balance. It's not a food wine. It's a cocktail wine.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a lot of cocktail wines out there that don't have that acidity, but if people are just pounding them down, that's fine.
But after a while, they become heavy on your palate.
Now here's a question. Now from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, and this is just for some people out there also. Now, here in Missouri, when you try Norton's, there is one of the fun things about Missouri wines is that everybody has their own take on Norton. Mm-hmm. So you could try all the different wineries, and they're all very different. Unlike some parts of the United States where everybody has a Me Too style of whatever that varietal is. Mm-hmm. Also in Missouri, we don't have a requirement of it has to be picked at this acidity or this sugar level. It has to have this minimum alcohol level. It has to be aged this amount. I mean, now you have that in a lot of the DOC regions of Italy that, can you explain that in certain regions? What are some basic requirements?
Well, it's difficult in a sense that there is not like one basic requirement. No, every appellation has its own rules. Now, the appellation does not tell you how much brick you have to have at harvest,
right.
But the appellation tells you, in order to get the wine with that name, with that appellation name, has to have certain varietal. So you cannot be called Chianti if you are bottling Merlot.
Okay.
So every appellation has its own varietal. So you have to play as a producer among the varietal that the appellation allowed to grow. And that's the first thing. The second thing, you have to have certain parameter. But those parameters, they don't refer to the, well, yeah, they say how much yield per hectare you can get. So that the state can tell you how much you can produce. They give you the maximum amount. You can always go lower, you cannot go above. So they say, for example, Chianti Classico, just to throw a name, Chianti Classico has to be Sangiovese, Ciliegiolo, and Canaiolo. Okay? Then you can add up to a 15% of other varietal. And then it's up to you as a producer to decide what you want to grow. Okay. So Sangiovese can be either 100% Sangiovese, Chianti can be either 100% Sangiovese, but you are allowed to use up to 15% of other varietals. So that's what the law tells you. Then they tell you also what is the yield per hectare. So Sangiovese, Chianti cannot be above 85 quintali ettaro, 85 quintals per acre. Now, I know we speak two different languages because I'm on the metric system.
Right.
So to know tons an acre, you have to multiply by 0.004. So 85 tons an acre should be 85 quintals an acre should be roughly around, I go by memory, around 3.5 tons an acre. If
That's
you have
a low yield.
If very low yield.
That's
So if you have a calculator, we can actually calculate it. It's 0.004. So then they can tell you if you want to have a Chianti Classico, has to have that minimum aging requirement. So you are forced to do that minimum aging requirement. You want to do more, you can do more, but you cannot do less.
Do they also have a minimum as far as minimum, maximum alcohol on some of these? And that's what I was trying to...
Absolutely.
Right.
So they don't tell you what is the minimum brick at harvest, but they tell you to be a Chianti Classico, you have to have a minimum of, in this case specifically, 12.5% alcohol. So you know that if you want to reach 12.5% alcohol, you have to have certain number of bricks in your grape to achieve that. Now, nowadays, every Chianti Classico, it's at least 13% or 13.5% alcohol. Again, they tell you the minimum, but you can go above. So basically what the law does, the law want to make sure that you're not cheating, and then you have what as a slang, I like to call it the minimum wage. So you have to have at least those parameters. Then if you want to do better, great, but you cannot go lower.
You cannot go lower.
No. So you can improve the quality, you cannot cheapen down the quality. So that's what they tell you.
Okay.
So, and everything is different because I'm from Verona, my family makes Amarone and Valpolicella wines. So in this case, they will tell me you have to use Corvina and Rondinella by the law. Now, the Molinara, the Croatina, the Tindarella, the eventual Merlot or Cabernet, other varietal, they have a maximum of 15%. But Corvina and Rondinella are actually required by the law in different percentage. And then it's up to you to decide what you want to do. Also, the fact that Amarone is made with raisinated grape, so the yield per hectare becomes interesting to calculate. Why? Because low yield means high quality. So when you play to 2.5 to 3 tons an acre, it's very low yield, the quality goes up. So Chianti is 3 tons. You go down to Montalcino, they become 2.2, so it gets really, really low. When it comes to Amarone, it's 5 or 6. Like, why? Why such a big yield per hectare? Well, because you raise them in your grape and you're losing 30% production right there. If you start with very little grape, you end up with nothing. And then you will not have enough acidity. So our appellation let us produce a little bit more because everybody knows that we put it on the straw mats to let it dry.
Now, here's a question for you. You were saying that you do have that humidity up there. How are you able to dry those grapes in such a the
Because the raising of the corvina is done in wintertime, so the weather is really cold.
Okay.
So actually, and we do have those usually in the beginning were done in the roof, underneath the roof
Yes.
of the big farmhouses. And nowadays we do it in buildings, but we keep them on a higher elevation. So and then again, there is a difference between boutique producer and big producer. Big producer, like anything else, are industries. And industries, they need to provide quantity. So they have warehouses and they use fans, they use burners, they use dehumidifier, things that a small guy like me, that are more purists, they are more at the research of the terroir. We don't use any
they speed up the
technology to speed up the process. I always say the biggest technology that I use is to put the nets on the windows so the birds don't come in eating the grape. That's the technology that I use. So very, very natural. But the cold weather actually help you. Otherwise, the exceed of humidity will rot and everything.
Oh. Okay, so now here's a geeky question for you. Very controversial. So you mentioned that you're a little bit of a
Disclaimer here, I'm not very politically correct, you know that.
Oh, I know that. But I mean, this is internet, so if we say something offensive, I guess, it can go viral and that'd be good, or
Right,
or we
exactly.
can edit it out if it's too horrible. So I was very impressed that you watched Doctor Who. Here's a question for you: who was your favorite Star Trek captain?
Oh my God. I am very, how can I say, I told you I'm a traditionalist
Okay.
and I'm a nostalgic person. So for me, Star Trek is the very first series.
The original Star.
The original Star Trek, that's my Captain Kirk is the number
The
one.
Shatner version, not
Absolutely.
the remake.
No. Yeah, absolutely. To me, he would be Captain Kirk forever. That's what it is. I mean, if I met him on the street, that's right the way I'm gonna call him.
Well, it's funny. He came to St. Louis to Comic-Con, and he asked the audience, "Are there any good Missouri wines, and what are some good wine bars here in St. Louis?" I thought that was kind of funny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Does he make wine?
He's probably one of the few celebrities who doesn't.
God bless him. One extra reason to love him. One extra reason to love him. Absolutely. God bless him. We have way too many winemakers, way too many wineries. We don't need all of those. Stay in your own business. Stay in your own business. Let us make the wine.
I'm not going to act if you don't make the wine. You act, I'll sell the wine.
Exactly. This is actually extremely interesting wine. I really like it.
It is a lot of fun. Now, they're right there on the Missouri River.
What's the price point of this?
This is like right around 24, I think.
Well spent.
I mean,
Money well spent.
This with a big porterhouse steak.
Absolutely. Actually, I'm craving for fat right now. I want protein and fat. I want that knife, that acidity go bam right into it and become super soft on the bottom. Cool. Terrific. Thank you for letting me try.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, it's always fun. I mean, we a lot of times seem to drink a lot of what we make or what we sell over and over. And I've always told new reps, I said, the best way to learn, and it's also interesting hearing winemakers say, yeah, I try to drink as much as what I don't make as possible, because then you can discover new ideas or flaws. I mean, I find it funny when certain wineries don't put tech sheets out. I'm like, it's not a state secret. Either you're trying to hide something, or you're trying to hide something that you shouldn't be doing, or are you just
may I say it, is the dumbest thing ever, because I can tell every single secrets that I have in my tech sheet. You never make the wine.
No, it's going to be different.
And that's the thing. So it's not, and also because There are no secrets. Winemaking is not rocket science. You take the grape, you squeeze it, you ferment it, you age it, you bottle it, you sell it. That's what it is. Is the soil that makes all the difference. That's the Torah that comes along, and there are no really secrets into this game. You go study, you buy any book, you study, and they tell you the rules, but the point is that is worthless, useless. It's useless, and also worthless because the theory needs to be applied to the contingency of what you get in harvest every year. So the game is always the same, but it's always different. When they ask me, when I read, 6 months in the barrel or 2 years in the barrel, I always laugh about it because if you're asking me, I have no idea because I don't decide how much time the wine stays in the barrel. It's the wine that tells me how much time needs to stay in the barrel. So when we write down something, first of all, I never write how much barrel period because again, nobody knows. But it's always a rough idea. It's not like 6 months, like every year I do 6 months or every year I do 2 years of barrel. I can tell you, my Amarone spends, generally speaking, about between 2 to 3 years in the barrel. But between 2 to 3, there are 12 months to play, right?
So the vintage dictates whether
absolutely.
It's 24, 30, or 36
But the
months.
barrel itself, people forget wine is alive, but barrels are alive too. Barrels are made with wood. Wood is made with trees. And it's not that one tree makes a barrel. You need more than one tree to make a barrel. So it's a mix of different trees, and every tree has its own soul. So every barrel has its own character. Although you buy from the same cooper, they get it from the same forest. You can buy Allier, you can buy Limousin, you can buy Slovenian oak, but still they have their own character. And the winemaker find out when they start using it. And you see how I'm getting excited? Yeah. It's so exciting because you harvest, you put your wines into, we have the big Slovenian oak, so 5,000 liters, you have like 10 barrels, and then you see what happened. And then you mix them. You take it out, you mix it, and you redistribute. You keep rotating them. So the wine gets every single aspect of that barrel, of those different barrels. And maybe in that barrel needs to stay 6 months, but in that barrel needs to stay a year and a half. You don't know. The porousness of the wood are different.
I've found when I would cut firewood sometimes, and it goes to where the wood is different. You could cut wood, same type of tree, on the bottom of the hill versus in like a little gully on the side versus the top, and you can look at the tightness of the rings, and the tightness of the rings just in 50 yards
right there
can be different, which will affect because it's the tightness of the grains that allows the interaction between the sugars in the barrel and the wine itself.
Exactly, and the osmosis, the absorbing of the oxygen. Of course, it's all about the porousness. Absolutely, and so it's so exciting. One of the things that was most difficult to learn at the winery, you start when you're a kid, is actually what we call barrel assembling. How can you make your wine, your style, out of many barrels? You have to put them together in order to how can I say, interpret your own style. And every time you change barrels, it's a challenge. So you don't want the barrel to impact too much. So you have to really manage them in a proper way. It's very difficult to put, if you have many barrels, it's very difficult to put the wine together that gives you that, your fingerprint, that your style.
You're not drinking the barrel, you're drinking the wine.
Absolutely.
The barrel is a reduction pan and a spice rack. It's
I
not
agree.
What's in the bottle.
Absolutely. I always say too many winemakers, they think or they want or their purpose is to flavor the wine. The wine doesn't need to be flavored. The wine should never be flavored. The flavor comes from the soil, comes from the vine. The wine mature in the barrel. So that's the difference again between boutique and big. The big guys, they just want to give the oaky flavor so they can charge a bit more. So
or
now,
to hide things. I mean, I'm seeing people.
Or to hide things.
Yeah,
sure.
I
When you're smelling, you take a shower, you put deodorant, right?
When I see these people using whiskey barrels to age wine, I'm like, okay, you're adding sugar to the wine, you're adding alcohol to the wine.
Yeah.
That I'm like,
In Italy, it's not even legal.
Right? That's not legal in Italy.
No.
That tells me. My question becomes, what are you trying to hide in the wine that you're doing these things
Exactly.
to it? Aging.
What do you need to add? There is nothing to add if something is like this.
Yes.
The wine is really talking to you.
Now, if you're aging whiskey in a wine barrel, that's perfectly fine. I can see that.
Or beer.
Beer,
because beer is actually another element which is phenomenal that I love. But the beer allows you to play more with flavors. You can actually add different ingredients in beer. You can brew a beer with pumpkin. You can brew with beer with blueberries also inside. You can play with it. Wine is untouchable. That varietal squeezed and nothing else. You cannot add. So when I say, oh, this wine has cherries, has plums, it's like, oh, you adding them? Like, no, you can't touch the wine. It's fermented grape juice, no more. It's what the wine developed by itself that it makes it, all the difference.
People have asked me, do you infuse? I go, no, they don't infuse. They go, well, how does it taste different? I go, you go to the grocery store and you look at 20 different apples. You look at Fuji, Gala, Honeycrisp, Granny Smith, Red Delicious, and you take a bite out of each one of those apples, they all taste distinctly different.
Yes, they're all apples.
They're all apples. It's the same thing with a grape varietal that you make wine. Each one of them tastes distinctly different. Now, you add on top of that the soil and the climate that each of these are grown. Then you add the winemaker's way or impression or interpretation of what it should taste like. So, I've said when somebody says they don't like a certain varietal, I go, there are so many thousand variations. It's impossible to say you don't like it because you haven't had every interpretation of it. Therefore, I say you're challenging. It's like challenging a bartender that's saying you don't get sick on a mixed drink. Don't say that.
Right? No, absolutely. I agree, 100%. 100%. That's the word it is. Absolutely. I always say there are only 3 things needed to make a wine. You need a soil, you need a vine that gives you grape, and you need a winemaker. And every time I do a wine dinner, I would say, "What do you need to make wine?" I say, "Oh, you need soil, you need the sun, you need the rain." Okay, but think bigger. And they at the end of the day, they pick the soil, they pick the vine, they pick the grape, but very few they actually say the winemaker. And I always say, guys, don't forget, there is nothing natural in wine. When they talk about those natural wine, and don't start me on the natural wine because I'm starting having like a skin reaction. There is nothing natural in wine. Without a human being, there won't be wine. Nature doesn't give you wine. Nature gives you vinegar. So I always say wine is an interfering of humankind over a natural process that gives you vinegar. So without humans, men or women, winemakers, you will not have any wine. And that's why wine is so cool. Because it's the interaction of Mother Nature and human intellect. And that's what makes it so amazing. So the more you play with those variables, the more different kind of wine you have. So you have more different terroir with the same grape and same winemaker, but different terroir, you have different wines. Tenuta la Meridiana, our producer, one guy, one estate, one grape, Barbera, 5 different wines, but different day and night. Just he picks here, or he picks over here. 5 different wines. You have the same terroir but different grape and same winemaker, you have different wines. Or same grape, same terroir, and 2 different winemakers, you get 2 different wines. So the wines speak for the people. And that's the funny thing. And if you go around the world, excuse me?
Vox Populi.
Exactly, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, absolutely. You go around the world, and the different society, they make different wine according to their culture, to their interpretation. And that's what makes it so cool, and is an infinite number of variables because we have millions of different terroirs. We have thousands of grapes, and we have 7 billion people on the planet, so we're all very different. Italians are very different from California people, they're very different from French, they're very different from Spanish, they're very different from South Africa. We are different. We think different, we approach life in a different way. So we make different wines. And so I always say, think about that you only have 7 notes to make music. And think about how much music is out there, how much music has been written, and how much more music will be written. And you have 7 notes. There are no more than 7. So think about how much different wine you can make with 2,000 varietal. Probably, I don't even know how many different terroirs, like 1 billion terroirs, and 1 billion people making wine.
China's in the CSW book now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
when you think about China, how big it is, of course you're going to find the proper climate, the proper terroir. And again, the wine knowledge, it took us 3,000 years to develop it, but then now you can start it in 3 years to become a winemaker. I would say, oh, so everybody can? Of course. It took humanity 5 million years to the first flight, but now everybody can get a license to be a pilot. You know, it was difficult the first flight, but once you get to the first flight, then you just have to fly. Same thing is the wine. It took to humanity so many thousands of years to get it, to understand it, and make it right. But now, everything is in the book this big. Everybody can learn, everybody can do it, and put their own, effort, and also their own, contribute to get it better, to change it. And it's a never stopping thing.
Here's a question for you. So, you said your dad started in '87, bringing things into the United States?
It started in '87, the importing company.
Okay.
So my family's been making wine for 4 generations.
4 generations.
But my father was selling his own wine here in the United States in the 70s.
Okay.
And then he noticed that, the importer were charging so much money on our wine before they sell it to the wholesaler. So he said, why have to add that extra layer? If we bring the wine by ourselves, we cut 1 layer away, we give the wine directly to our distributor that can actually bring it into the market. And so that was the idea, to collect 6 of his friends from different regions, all winemakers. So each one makes his own wine in his own winery, and we come here as a group. So being a group, it's easier because we can cut the cost of marketing, divide the cost in 6 parts.
A container is a lot easier to ship.
A lot easier
when you have 6
logistics.
guys putting 100 cases
Exactly.
in. But here
and now we are 32.
And now you're 32. But here's the question. What have you seen change as far as like positive, negative in the American wine culture? I mean, America has now grown to, I think, one of the top 5 wine consuming countries in the world, when we used to be much lower.
Mm-hmm. I didn't see any negative. I only saw positive.
Saw positive?
Absolutely.
Now with the millennials, though.
Exactly. Like the US market, it's an absolutely mature market. And so what does it mean? It means that the people in the United States now knows wine. And it's much easier to sell wine or any other product if people know about that product. So you have to think that it's something relatively extremely new for the US. In the 60s, nobody was drinking wine. We're starting really drinking
right.
wine. So there are only 2 things that you can convince people to do. Either something cheap, so it's like, okay, it's only $3, I give it a try. If you bring a wine that is $100 and you never drank wine before, you don't know what it is, then okay, you should try this, but it costs $100. So like, okay, maybe next time. So cheap stuff. So at the beginning was a lot of cheap stuff coming into the market to convince the people to move from Dr. Pepper into wine. And then people start getting it and start liking it. I'm like, wow. And when you start liking something, then you want to go to the next level. And so in California, I said, not those, I don't want to say a better word, those our friends from the other side of the pond, those French, those Italian, those Spanish, how much wine they sell. Why don't we do it? We have beautiful land here. We can actually do it. So they start making very big, full body, what I call movie star wines, to convince this new audience, because I told you that the wine talks about the people, right?
Right.
Reflect the people. So what you have here, you have an American society, American people. They're always on the clock, always, how can I say, always
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification. Now. I don't have time. Which I never understood that. Like, what you need the time for? But that's another long story. So now, and big America, the bigger the better. So those big, full body wines, well, which I'm not a particularly fan. However, they fit a purpose. They make the American to fall in love with wines. Especially those generations that they literally have to go from Dr. Pepper into wine. Now, those generation had some kids, and those kids grew up, and they start getting more into wine, and they have kids too. So, I don't want to ask you how old you are, but you and your parents were not born in a wine country, but your kids are born in a wine country. So the new millennial,
Right.
the kids, my new market now are kids from 21 above. And those kids that are 21 to 25 today, they were born in a wine country. They were not introduced to wine. Wine was already there. Wine was already on their table because they saw their parents that they got introduced into wine to bring it at home and have it at lunch and dinner. So those millennials, they have a much broader view, not just big and now, because wine is not for special occasion on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, is Monday through Sunday. So they know that I cannot drink big and heavy on a Tuesday night. They need to have something light, easy, fruity, approachable, lower alcohol, but with a lot of layers that satisfy their palate, and they can have a glass and go to sleep and sleep like babies. Because wine is not a specialty thing, is a lifestyle.
It's a food. It's
part of the
we
food.
drink it every day. We don't want to drink so much that we can't function the next
Exactly.
day.
Less sugar, because sugar makes you go back to the, so less sugar. So there is this expression that says Americans talk dry but drink sweet. Absolutely. Those
Yeah.
huge, big Napa cup, they have so much hidden sugar inside, but you said before, cocktail wines, they call you back. They call you back because wine, sugar is addictive. Italian wines, European wines are food-driven wines, so they're dry for real. They have acid for real. So you want to put them with the food. Well, guess what? The millennial are really appreciating that. Less oaky wine, less massive wine, less hidden sugar, but more food-friendly wine.
What's the challenge in marketing to the millennials, you think?
I think that the challenge is nowadays patient again, because yes, they're more curious than their parents. Yes, they're more willing to try and investigate into new varietal. Yes, they're not afraid of what they don't know because they have those devil machines that we call smartphones. So if you mention a varietal, they just check it out. So they're not afraid. The problem is that we need to change a little bit. That instant gratification is still there because these new social media, they are pushing the instant gratification to another dangerous level. And everything has to be happening now. If it happens 5 minutes ago, it's not cool anymore. So that's something that the millennial that needs to kind of slow down. I like their curiosity. I like their approach to life. Curious, open mind, yes. Keep it down a notch. You slow down a little bit. They're impatient.
They need the patience, but the most beautiful thing about them is that they don't have the commitment to the brand or to the varietal that their parents have. You know, when we talk about cheating on your wine, they're willing to try all sorts of different things.
Absolutely.
And I find it interesting when I'll have a retail event that it's the millennials that'll say, I don't like that. I've never heard that. I'm like, well, give it a try. What's the worst that happens? They'll try it. Where the parents, you almost have to do a Jedi mind trick. You want to go ahead and try it. You want to give it a try. You don't have to buy it if you like it.
Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. That curiosity, in fact, I always say, wine doesn't like expert. It likes wine lovers. So the best thing that you need to have when you approach wine is curiosity. If I wasn't curious, I would not try those. I would miss it out. So that's the thing, curiosity. That's what the wine, and you always, it is a thing, you say wine is there to stimulate your senses and makes your body happy. So it's about pleasure. So the more different you have, the more pleasure you can get. So that's the thing, not in terms of quantity of one wine, but in quantity in terms of different wines. Don't limit yourself to one varietal. Don't limit yourself to one appellation. I would suggest don't drink my wine only because it's boring. I mean, I don't drink my wine only because it's boring. I told you, I'm married to my wife. I'm happy. That's the only commitment I'm going to take. Everything else, I want to experience different things.
Yeah, I mean, when I back in my beer days, I'd hear people say, "Oh, I drink ABC, name the name, whatever the brand it was. Well, that's what I drank in college, or that's what my dad drank." Well, okay, that's fine when it was only 3 beer companies in the United States. Now I see these people jumping from brand to brand. Do the same thing with your wine.
Absolutely.
And try these. And what's amazing is there's so many countries out there. People will say, I've never heard of that country. I'm like, well, they've been making wine there for thousands of years. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not good.
Absolutely.
Or just because they're new to it. I mean, 40 years ago, California wasn't big on the scene, but now everybody wants that Napa wine. Or so try these different things.
Try, absolutely. Try. And try to understand too. Try to understand. And again, not every wine will be your favorite wine, but if the wine is well made, so it's not flooded, it doesn't have any problem, you're going to enjoy it for different reasons. Every wine for different reasons. Maybe one more than the other, but it's still enjoyable. It's still pleasurable. It's not like, oh my God, it tastes the bad wine. Oh, I'm going to die. No, it's not.
You spit it out, you dump it out,
yeah,
and you go to the next one.
Exactly. But and I tell you more, it's again, unless the wine is sick, I really never throw away wine because I didn't like it. Because it was not that cliche of my favorite palate. I actually really enjoy, I enjoy huge full body wines. I enjoy super light, easy drinking. I enjoy white, red, rosé, sparkling. I enjoy all of them. I love sweet wine, dessert wine, late harvest, amazing.
Yeah.
I like every single one of them. Now, do I drink a late harvest sweet wines every day? No. It has its time and place. But I'm really, the only time I dump it is because when I think the wine has some major issues.
You know, what's interesting, you mentioned about, I had a bad wine. Okay, big deal.
On top of it, big deal.
Right.
Did you die?
People talk about traumatic experiences and remembering traumatic experiences. And the thing I found interesting about wine is if you have a wine you don't like, or what is called a bad wine, you generally just spit it out, dump it, and you go on to the next one. And the next one might be the wine that you say, oh my God, because
the flavor experience.
I remember the oh my God wines. I do not remember the oh, this was a horrible wine. And that's what's fun about wine. You remember the oh my God, this is incredible.
Absolutely.
A lot more than you remember the I can't believe I tried that.
Exactly.
Now,
absolutely.
Speaking of that, what was your first oh my God, this
Unless
is
it's an orange wine.
An orange wine?
Yeah, I remember that horrible experience that I had with orange wine. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I didn't even have a mouth to pull this wine in. Yeah. That I remember.
Okay.
I was just like, that was the worst day of my life. And I actually thought like, this is insulting. You can tell I'm not a huge orange wine fanatic. Actually, I think that was a scam. but we talk about it another time. We don't have time now.
We'll go there.
And I will go.
We'll set up a therapy session for orange wine survivors.
Absolutely.
What was your first, oh my God, this is an incredible moment of food-wine combination that just really stands out in your mind and blows you?
Food and wine, I don't have one because I had like many great experience in food and wine. I can tell you the first time, the thing that is super bright in my mind, I remember the first time I had a Brunello in my life, for example, and I was 14. And I remember of that day, I remember everything, what I was wearing, what we eat, where we were. I remember the room, the color. It was just like, it struck me like a lightning. I was like, oh my God, that's the best wine I ever had in my own life. And then I remember the first Barolo that I really fell in love. Like those moments, you know, and the people connect to it, that they really change your life. For me, was a life changing, like really moment that changed my life. But again, I'm into this business. I grew up in a business, so for me it was more dramatic than maybe for other people. But I totally remember those things as like.
I don't think you have to be in the business. You can be the average wine, just the average person. I was with a friend of mine for his 21st birthday, and we were at the American Royal Barbecue, and he's drinking all these different New World big California wines, and then he pours himself probably about this much Brunello. It's funny that he said Brunello. And he takes a sip and he goes, oh, I hate that. He goes, it's my least favorite wine. I said, it's a food wine. I said, go try some pulled pork. He takes a tiny little sliver. I said, no, take a big bite of, he takes a little sliver and he goes, oh, it's better. I go, no, take a big bite of your sandwich. And he takes it and he goes, oh my God, this is my favorite wine.
Absolutely.
So he takes the glass from here to here and it goes to prove what the influence, and a lot of people have said, when I'm working an event or at an event, they'll go, oh, I go, go get some food with that.
Absolutely.
And they go, oh, I do like it now. And I said, yeah. I said, that's what this is for.
It's supposed to be.
It's what it's supposed to be.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to be in the industry to really say, wow, this is,
Oh, yeah.
I get it now. It could be just simply having a glass of Riesling with some hot wings or eating some pretzels with some Prosecco.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. It's all about the experience. Definitely.
What would you recommend as far as advice goes to new wine drinkers or just a person who says, I always tell people, you don't have to know anything about wine other than what you like. Don't be afraid to experiment. What would you recommend to everybody out there that's wanting to learn a little bit something about wine that doesn't have that confidence? They say, just be confident in yourself.
I think I said it before, like the only thing that I really recommend is be curious. Curiosity is the best thing you need for wine. Wine doesn't like wine expert. Why you want to know how it's made, the variety? Like every time come this conversation, I say, well, do you like steak? I say, when they tell me, well, I'm not a wine expert, so I don't know. I'm like, well, do you like steaks? And they're like, yes. But are you a cow expert? They're like, they look at me like I'm joking, like, and I'm serious. That's serious. And so they start serious. Like, but what do you mean? Well, what do you know about cows? What do you know about raising cows? What do you know about butchering cows? What do you know about different cuts of meat? What do you know about it? Well, I know nothing. Well, but if it's the steak is a good steak or is a bad steak. Say, sure. So same thing is the wine. You don't need to know the name of the cow to appreciate a ribeye. And if it's overcooked or if it's the meat was rotten instead of properly aged, you can taste it and say, this steak sucks. Same thing is the wine. You don't need to know the varietal. You don't need to know the appellation. We have the wine in the glass. If the wine is delivering, talking to you, giving you emotion, it's a great wine as much as that steak. Or what you know about sea bass. How long do they live? What is the perfect time to fish a sea bass? What is the best? You know all the recipes? You don't. You just know if you like it or if you don't like it, and that's the only thing that you need to know. But you have to have the curiosity to order it.
Yeah.
To order it, get it in your plate, and then enjoy it.
Curiosity isn't going to kill you. We're not cats.
Only the cats, exactly. I agree. Actually, it's the spice of life. If we fly, it's all only and exclusively because we're curious. If we have AC, if we have lights, if we have everything, it's because we are curious. If the man was content with the first cave, when we fire, when we nothing, we were not searching for anything. Curiosity.
I think, what was it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Dante said that the need of man to explore is the divine curse.
Absolutely, yes.
And people, I say, take that approach to wine. Take that approach for your need to explore as a human being, to go out and explore different varietals, different regions. I mean,
absolutely. One
of the most interesting things was one time I told people, I said I was trying 3 Chardonnays, one from the Corton Charlemagne vineyard, one from Napa, and one from Chile. All of them were 100% Chardonnay. All of them were brand new French oak, 100% mellow, but all 3 of them were distinctly different. Absolutely. And it was very, very fascinating to try the 3 wines like that.
Absolutely, definitely. I'm sure. I wish I was there with you, so we could taste it together.
Now, so do you fish or hunt at all?
Good question. I'm not an hunter, but I like to fish. Now, I cannot call myself a fisherman? No, a
fisherman, but I mean, what do you like to fish for? I mean, it could be just in a creek, in a pond.
Exactly. I don't, unfortunately, but I always enjoy to fish when I have the opportunity. So I don't regularly go fishing, but if somebody says, "Oh, we go fishing, you want to join?" Immediately. Well, I'm from Veneto, so for me, fishing means fishing on the lake, Lake Garda. And in Lake Garda, you fish trout. You fish sardelle, and sarda. I don't know how to translate it, but it's kind of a freshwater sardine, kind of, and it's really cool. And the luccio, I don't know the name of the name in English of luccio, but it's a big fish and has teeth. So it's a carnivorous fish.
Almost like a northern pike.
Pike, thank you. It's a pike. So, and we have pike. And those are the main fish that you can get. And then on the Alps you can go trout fishing, but on the creeks, on the rivers, and that's a lot of fun. I remember talking about moment in time, because we don't fly fishing. We did not fly fish in Italy. So I remember my first time I actually fly fished in the United States, because it was the only place you could do fly fishing, that beautiful artistic way of it was things that I only seen in movies growing up. Millions of movies of people flying fishing, and like, what are they doing? And they took me in northern Michigan. I remember I was today, 1989. I'm telling you, August 1999. This friend of my dad took me fishing in northern Michigan, and the emotion of hooked the first trout when you fly fishing, it's something like catching the first wave on the surfboard.
Now, what did you drink with that trout that day?
What did I drink?
What did you drink with the trout?
Oh, it's funny. We didn't cook the fish right there, unfortunately. We were just fishing, and then the next day we had to drive back to Detroit and fly away. So I didn't really enjoy myself that fish, which I'm very sorry about it. But it was an amazing moment. Like when you
hooked it. So if we're able,
I fished in Albuquerque, New Mexico, on probably one of the highest lake in terms of altitude that I ever been. To this crazy friend of mine, Rob Richmond, which was the owner of Rob Ribs, you know, the famous rib place, you know, barbecue place that, you know, he was the owner and the chef. He took me fishing, and we fished there. And with that wine, we had with that fish that we took it back to the restaurant, and then some of them we grilled it, but some of them he smoked it in the smoker. And we had with the one that he grilled right there, we had a Verdicchio dei Castelli di Jesi, single vineyard Manciano. Phenomenale, amazing. No, I mean, insane. And then we smoked one, and with the one that we smoked, we had a Gavi di Gavi from Piemonte, which was another amazing experience. So I totally remember. That was the first time that I fished something here and actually had the pleasure to enjoy it.
So when we're able to get Wild Wine Life and we go out and see you, you'll take us to Lake Garganega and we'll go fishing there.
Absolutely, right? Yes. Absolutely, yes. But I also have a lot of friends that are hunters, so I can take you hunting. Well, I don't hunt myself, right? But I love, how do you call it, cacciagione, a game.
You like the trip. You like I know people that go to deer camp.
Mm-hmm. I don't hunt.
They don't hunt, but they're like right. They don't.
What is the bird?
They go to deer camp not to hunt, but to drink and eat. Like I know one guy that told his wife he'll stop deer hunting the year he gets a deer, and there's some years he never takes a gun.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can take you hunting in Tuscany with my dear friend. His name is Manrico. He is a winemaker. He has a property called Signano. He makes Vernaccia di San Gimignano. And he is a ranger also. I can take you wild boar hunting.
Oh, no.
And he is spectacular. And then he butchers his own meat. He cures his own meat. He makes his own sausages, his own prosciutto, wild boar salami.
See, that is the wild wine life.
Like absolutely. That is, I give you something even more wild, something that people that will freak out. I can give you raw pork meat, and you're out of your mind. Well, the only time I ever had raw sausage is with Manrico, and he said, "Don't worry, eat it. You'll be just fine. It's my pig. This is what it's super safe. Don't worry." And you're like, you cry, you're like, "Oh my God, this is so good." But then he tells you, "Don't do it ever again, and in any other circumstances. You gotta do it here with me, with my meat." Raw sausage are phenomenale.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun.
It's a treat. I'm telling you. They call it mortadella. Why we call mortadella something else up north. And you know, you take the crostini, warm crostini, and then you spread it out like you spread peanut butter.
I'll try that. Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, and I can't wait for you to come back to St. Louis.
Me too.
We'll have to do some bocce and barbecue the next time you come in.
I agree, 100%.
And I want to thank everybody for joining us. And please, if you like our videos here on Ciao St. Louis, please share us with your friends.
Put a like.
Please put a like, put a share. Visit Nicola. What's your website?
My website is nicolabiscardoselection.com.
And you're also on Facebook.
I'm also on Facebook, Nicola Biscardo Selection. But as soon as you put Nicola Biscardo, they really come out. Like you Google it, Nicola Biscardo, because for me it's easy to say Nicola Biscardo. They're like, what did you just say? So yeah, follow me on my YouTube channel and on Facebook. I'm getting better on Instagram. Like my nephew says, "You're doing Facebook, you're so old." I'm like,
I hear that.
Really?
I don't want to be called.
Oh, you're so old.
I don't want to be called grandpa for learning social media.
Exactly.
I'm not a grandpa. I'm going to be a dad. So just Right. Yeah, that's a whole nother matter. But yeah, let's just. And I'm like, they don't even make it easy to coordinate to where you can post on Facebook and it instantly goes to Instagram. But I'm not here to talk about Facebook. But if Mark Zuckerberg could make it easier for us, I would appreciate it.
Exactly.
So anyway,
Thank you, my friend.
cheers. Thank you very much.
Piacere. Salute.
And here's Living the Wild Wine Life on Ciao St. Louis with Vine Chat.
Salute.